Hi, my name is Harri Turtiainen and I'm co-founder of Applixure. Let me start with a story. When I was in a business school studying management and leadership, we were taught that employees are the company's greatest assets. Yet during my 20-year career in IT, wholesale and distribution, this often didn't seem to apply how IT saw the employees or end users as they called them, nor on how vendors pitch their solutions to IT leaders. Employees' importance could be heard in talks, but when the focus was turned into technology and IT, they were soon practically forgotten. Employees, their computers and software to endpoint devices were often seen as a necessary evil, just a major cost and hassle to minimize. However, when a company's payroll is measured in tens or hundreds of millions in a year, it does matter a lot how well employees get their job done. For most employees nowadays, their computer is their main tool, if not the only tool, their instrument of success or failure. Yet, how these computers and their software helped them succeed or prevented them to get their job done was never really measured and thus actively improved. And it bothered me a lot. It was against what I had learned, and it was against how the business thinks. Then one day, while watching yet another Finn win a Formula 1 car race, I started to compare a Formula 1 team to IT and a driver to an employee. To succeed, a driver must have a competitive car that works reliably, and he must be able to get everything out of it. And today, business is not much different. We are often competing with very small differences, just a few percentage points here and there, but for a winning team, all these improvements add up. And often, just like in business, the winner takes most of the money. Formula 1 teams know that you cannot improve something you cannot measure, and in Formula 1 everything is measured. This is called telemetry. It allows teams to see how the cars perform, making it possible to improve cars, and for drivers to improve how to get more out of them without pushing too far. Today, an employee's computer is like a car for a race driver, necessary to get the job done, and for many jobs, a source of competitive advantage. It is an instrument of success or the reason for failure. In some jobs, a computer may be a source of competitive advantage, while in some it just needs to work, and in some it's all about how much the employee can get out of it. A modern business cannot succeed if computers are holding their employees back, just like in Formula 1. You cannot win races if you don't have a competitive car. But you don't know where to improve if you don't know, and you don't know something you don't measure. So I asked Kalle Saunamäki, the other co-founder of Applixure, if we could build such a tool. An agent that gathers all the relevant telemetry that IT needs to know about the hardware, operating systems and software. They really have how they are performing, if there are problems and if they are really being used. And a cloud-based interface where everything is clearly and visually presented, not like in the tools they use today, allowing IT to find relevant information quickly and easily, so that all this data really turns into action that will improve employees' experience and productivity. And with this thinking, Applixure was born. Today, more and more companies are taking employees seriously, with over 500 companies and organizations already using Applixure to monitor and improve how computers serve their employees. Today, Applixure is helping these organizations to improve the daily life of six-figure number of employees. This category is becoming known as Digital Employee Experience Monitoring, or shortly DEM. However, in my opinion, it still misses the point by thinking it is about passive monitoring, whereas I think it's about actively improving. That's why we call Applixure a digital employee experience improvement company. In this video, I will go through why digital employee experience matters for business and IT, how employee experience can be improved, the simple steps that make all the difference, how all this won't require more work but actually reduces IT workload, and how Applixure works with effective automation capabilities to streamline IT operations further still. Let's start with why. Most IT organizations don't fully understand how computers are being used, how they work, and what value they provide for the employees and for the business. And the business is no wiser. In today's business environment, what gets measured gets prioritized. If value, in this case digital employee experience, is not measured and improvements tracked, the focus turns into one figure that is easily measured, which is cost. And this is exactly why things are like they are. If on the other hand you make value visible, the focus turns into how much value the business really wants from IT. The cost of an employee's computer with all related software, support and maintenance is really peanuts when compared to the cost of the employee. And if we compare it to his or her contribution to the revenue, which is the right way to make a comparison, the cost of the computer is even smaller. By focusing on keeping the cost down, not driving up the value, IT is often hurting the overall profitability by driving with the wrong key performance indicators. The more IT knows how computers serve employees and are being used, the easier it is to make decisions that help employees to do their job better, achieve more, be less frustrated. This does not require more work or more budget, as I am soon to explain. It is actually quite easy to improve digital employee experience and improve productivity. The key, as often, is data. However, many IT leaders think they already have sufficient information on which their team bases decisions. They believe, for example, that having Microsoft's stack of IT management tools is enough. The reality is quite different. The required information is often not available through these tools or requires too much Excel work to turn raw data into useful information, and in practice decisions are often made based on assumptions, guesswork or months old data which isn't even applicable to the case. For example, we just had a case where a large company assumed their computers were in a perfect condition as they had been recently renewed. This is a very common assumption, problems years ahead. Little did they know. Nothing to gain with Applixure, they thought, but gave us a chance. After a short trial, it turned out that thousands of computers, almost half of the recently renewed computers, were running on high memory usage, had performance issues, and thus low responsiveness for the employees. The cause? Half of the new computers were wrongly spec'd because of insufficient information on how employees use their computers, which software was actually used, how much computer resources they require, and so forth. As they say, assumptions is the mother of all fuck-ups. Luckily, complaints hadn't reached the top yet, and IT had time to take action to mitigate the problem. IT often assumes they are aware of the state of and issues in their endpoint environment. They believe that people call support if they have problems. Sure they do, when they have serious issues. But not with nuisances, unless they have too much time, and I hope you don't have too many employees with too much time. Most issues are never reported. It is often easier to work around the problem or ask a colleague for help than spending time with the service desk when you are trying to get a job done. And many nuisances are just assumed the way things are. Waiting ages for computers to start, an application that hangs time to time, software that crashes. Unfortunately, what IT knows is often just the tip of the iceberg. When you are spending your efforts only on the tip, you are not improving the foundation. So let's go under the surface. The first thing under the surface is nuisances. Issues that are never reported or are purely categorized, thus how widely they are affecting is never actually understood. A general issue is a nuisance that is affecting many, tens, hundreds or even thousands of employees. If you want to make a big impact on digital employee experience, go after general issues. Things like slow boot times or weak batteries are just a few examples of things that quickly added up to huge losses in productivity compared to the cost of fixing them. The problem is IT is usually not aware of these repeatedly occurring general issues. They fly below the IT's radar. The beauty with general issues is that once you figure out how to fix one, you are making work easier for tens, hundreds or thousands of employees, often with about as much work as to fix one or two support tickets. Actually, fixing general issues often fix the root causes of repeated support tickets. So it's not about working more, rather than being informed and thus smarter on where to put those limited resources we all tend to have. But there is more. Not all general issues affect experience directly. They might be security or compliance issues or cost issues, like unnecessary admin rights or BitLocker is not in use, unapproved software or versions in use, as an example, unwanted games installed, old operating system and or software versions in use, or unused expensive software. Having the visibility which Applixure provides will make life easier for IT in so many other ways as well, but we'll get to them a bit later in more detail. There's still one more layer of the iceberg to cover, the improvement opportunities. This is competitive advantage zone where you can focus on developing the environment, not just fixing it. But how hard is it going to be? IT does not have time nor resources for other projects. Well, it doesn't need to. Let's plot a roadmap for transformation, a simple one, the one that all IT organizations can follow. It all starts with getting visibility and taking control. When you install Applixure, you are going to get visibility to all your computers and their software almost instantly. In practice, we recommend collecting data for a week or two so that there's enough data about, as an example, software usage, crashes, and so forth. Installing Applixure takes only a few minutes and requires zero configuration. When you have the visibility and the data, you have basically taken an inventory of hardware and software assets, how they are configured, how they are working or not working properly, and how they are being used, including how much they are powered on, and thus what is your computer environment energy consumption in euros and how much carbon footprint that causes. And all this is always up to date, from now on with all the relevant information easily accessible in a few seconds. From now on, when you have a need to know, you just log into Applixure and have the answer in seconds. This means you are not flying blind nor slow. You can forget making decisions on hard to gather months-old snapshots data, or worse still, no data at all, and start making informed decisions on up-to-date information. You have taken and are, from now on, in control. These include hardware, operating systems, software, essential configurations, what do you have, how well they function, how they are used, and by who. What is now happening is that your operations are now automatically becoming data-driven. No projects, no committees, no long-term never-to-reach goals. just a click of a switch installing Applixure. When informed decisions are made at a high and low level, that is, when operations are truly data-driven, as they are after you have deployed Applixure, the next thing that starts to happen is that the operations start to turn from reactively helping a few to proactively and continuously improving the lives of many. And with proactive comes continuous improvements. Small but frequent improvements. Finding and fixing general issues or making improvements that affect many. But let's not forget about the costs either. All this makes IT more productive and economical. You can reduce software and maintenance costs by consolidating versions and removing unused software, reducing the attack surface, thus improving the security, and make computers run a bit faster with less ballast, which also usually extends their life cycle with the added knowledge. All this won't happen overnight, but it happens automatically and effortlessly, almost without noticing, until you notice that it has already happened, just like such big cultural transformations should happen. Most of this transformation has happened now behind the scenes. People may have noticed that things are just a bit more easy and fluent, days a bit less frustrating and more productive. But they might not be able to tell why, nor can the business and leadership, until you tell them. So that it just didn't happen, but you made it happen. And there is more good stuff coming. With Applixure scores, trends, benchmarks and intuitive dashboards, it is easy to show that you care how computers and software work and how they serve employees at their jobs, thus contributing to how the whole business succeeds. When you share information frequently in understandable form by showing key performance indicators and how things are improving, employees and the business know you care and you develop, that you are doing it all for their success. And this starts to move the focus from costs to value and open up the wallet. We call this being accountable. And with the control and informed decisions, Applixure enables your IT to become data-driven, proactive operation, making being proudly accountable easy. And with its scores, trends, benchmarks and dashboards, it's also easy to show.